Yes, so the work package one, that's looking at the market size, the workforce and employment. So if we go to the next slide. So what we're trying to do here is, as we talked about already, is develop a methodology to measure and project the market size and the workforce. So this is both dollars and job numbers. And we want to then go from that to actually develop indicators so that we can project the size and, importantly, the detailed makeup of the workforce under a range of pathways, and to also give a breakdown of occupational and skills requirements. Now, what we would like to come out of this with is a methodology that is the framework for a large-scale survey. So I guess what our aim is here is to actually mainstream this so that it's not a one-off project that gets done as a particular initiative, but it just gets done routinely, and that in Australia we always know what our clean energy workforce is, and we know how it's changing, and we can track it over time. Now, we're certainly not expecting to go, I think that will take a number of years, but that's where we would like to end up. So what we're trying to do is set up a framework and then identify the steps along the way to get to that. And there are lots of challenges in that, which I will talk about a bit more in a minute, but the key deliverables are identified there in green. So after we've done our initial research looking at how this is done around the world, we'll come up with a consultation paper which compares the methodological options and the pros and cons. And that will be discussed in a workshop. And then we'll do some more work on Australian applicability, which will feed into the research roadmap. And hopefully at that point, we will actually be able to identify the framework that we're proposing for research in Australia. Could I have the next slide, please, which is more on process? Yeah, so this is how we're actually approaching the task. So we're starting with a desktop review, looking at the main approaches and best practice around the world. I should say that this ranges in difficulty. So there's the renewables employment, which we've done a lot of work on, which there is a lot of work being done around the world. And even that isn't that well characterized, but it's certainly an awful lot better than energy efficiency and demand management, which is really challenging to identify numbers in that field. And I just mean numbers. I don't even mean the specific occupations or the specific, all those next steps that we want. So that review will be looking at all, at all aspects, but particularly on the energy efficiency and DM, and identify which countries are doing this where we would like to be. So not in about, I think, a month's time, we'll be having our first workshop where we will have a discussion of those main methodological approaches, and we'll look at our kind of value matrix, by which we mean how will we assess the different methodologies. So, there'll be accuracy, there'll be how easy will we be able to do it, so there'll be quite a range of ways that we're going to assess that. And I don't think at that workshop we'll be particularly close to going, well, how will we go? But I hope we will be able to certainly be presenting and discussing and get feedback on how do we assess the different methodologies, and also look at the boundary and scope issues. So where does energy efficiency stop? When does it just become a construction job, for example? From that, we'll then go particularly to, well, how do our preferred methodologies, what are the challenges of implementing them in Australia? So we'll identify preferred methods and then look at that. And that will be partly stakeholder interviews, and we very much hope that we can do a pilot survey. And by that, I mean a very small subsectoral survey. So one of the methodologies we'd like to do is a telephone survey going on to companies to try and work up estimates from that. We'll identify a very small sector and see how the information works. But that needs some additional funding, which we haven't had confirmed yet. After that analysis in the next workshop, we are planning to come to the framework for the national survey and indeed the projections, and those will feed into the research roadmap. So next slide, please. So these are just some of the questions about scope and also the key challenges. So there's some parts of this that are definitely in scope. So renewable energy generation, for example, energy storage, energy efficiency, but there are questions about where we draw the scope about that. This is both scope about what is a clean energy survey, but also what we try and do more work on within this project, because we're not going to be able to cover everything. But I would say those, you know, renewable energy generation, energy storage, energy efficiency and demand management, they're all definitely in scope. Then there's this whole area that are maybe in scope. We certainly want to decide whether that would be in scope for the wider survey, but of those, you know, electric vehicles, other transport, hydrogen, biofuels, I am very confident we won't be able to do much work within this project other than see what gets tracked in other countries and a bit about how. So again, that's going to be a workshop discussion and also a discussion with Race. And then the key challenges, I would say the key challenge is developing a methodology which can be mainstream so that it can be repeated as an ongoing, you know, annual or biannual, but that it just happens, that it gets mainstreamed, whether that's, you know, I guess ideally into an ABS project, but in some way that this is just an automatic thing that governments know about. And I think one of the key challenges in devising that, let alone delivering it, is going to be, on the one hand, the lack of data. You know, the databases, I think, don't have such good coverage within Australia, and we have very broad, both firm categorization and workforce categorization. And I think that's probably all I want to say about this. And I think, yeah, we are very much looking forward to working with you all on this.